Hi, DeMarco.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Feeling good.
Let's get started. I see everyone on the line. Hi, everyone.
Today.
Hi, welcome. I'm Shivani Vora, and I am a co-founder of the New Travel Conference, along with Pavio Rosati of Fathom, Jack Ezon of Embark Beyond, and a whole team of PR people who really rallied and supported to help us get this event together. So thank you. Thank you very much. It's been an action-packed week so far with amazing panels and presentations. But this is one I'm particularly excited about, and I think it's very, very timely given the current state of the world right now. So this workshop, it was not in our original lineup, but the Black race protests made it clear that our industry has a lot of work to do in making travel more welcoming to Black people. And that's exactly what the topic of this is how to make travel more welcoming to Black people. So it's a topic that's always been relevant, but unfortunately has been too overlooked. Part of what we want to do in this conference, the New Travel Conference, is to chart a brighter course for the future of travel. And that means for everyone, no matter their race. So I didn't know DeMarco Williams, the managing editor of Forbes Travel, before I approached him to lead this panel. And I said, DeMarco, will you please help me put this together? Will you just take the lead in putting it together? And he was super excited. He said, yes, Shivani, this is the right time. Let's do it. And I'm just jumped on to organize it and rallied to get these great people together. So with that, I'm going to leave it to him to introduce who he's chosen for what is going to be an exciting discussion that I'm looking forward to. And if you guys have questions, please submit them using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And DeMarco is going to get to as many of them as he can at the end of the discussion. And with that, over to you guys. Can't wait.
Wonderful. Thank you for the introduction, Shivani.
Sure.
Like you said, the time couldn't be better for this conversation. I think I've gathered a rock star, all-star cast to help me get this conversation going. So without further ado, attendees, I'd like you to meet my family. This is Sarah Greaves Gabaldon. She's a journalist, host, family calls her Jet Set Sarah, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Right. Kim Jameson, hey.
Hey there.
Kim is the director of marketing for the Columbia Columbia Metropolitan Airport. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I knew her in another capacity where she did PR for the South Carolina as a destination.
That's right, South Carolina Tourism.
Okay, so we've had some good times in the Palmetto State. Next up, Kelly Edwards. She and I haven't met in person, but I've been a fan from afar for a while. She's a host with Travel and Leisure. She's done Ford ads, just a rock star around the globe. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Milton Howery, my man in Memphis. We had some good times in Memphis. Just a rock star as the director of PR for Memphis Tourism. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt. And Travis Levius, how's it going, sir?
Going well, going well.
He is what we call a slash. So he's a journalist slash video producer slash consultant slash world traveler, passport stamper extraordinary. I'm glad to have you here. And I am DeMarco Williams. I am a father, a son, a husband, a Jurassic Park movie enthusiast, a sports fanatic, managing editor of Forbes Travel Guide, and I'm also a proud Black man. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, about 10 minutes from where Rayshard Brooks was gunned down a few weeks ago. So his story and the stories of George Floyd and others touch me it's touched everyone in a different way, but, this Brooks story definitely touches close to home, seeing as how I've been at that intersection where that Wendy's is countless times. As I just said, the Floyd murder and the Brooks murder, those things are only a month old, but it feels like it's been going on forever, and it has been going on forever, but these two specific cases are very fresh. But in this month, this past 6 weeks, a lot has shifted. I'd love to start the conversation with Sarah. Where have you seen changes, or what are your thoughts on this past month, the past 2 months? Just tell me a little bit about things from your perspective.
Yes, it's important to realize that just as much as racism has always existed in the world, it's also a part of the travel industry. It's always been that way. And just as a way that we've ignored it in the world, it's been ignored in the travel industry. And it's really ironic because travel, of course, is the most diverse of all beats. And yet we have had travel stories told through such a narrow and white lens. So I'm hoping that people realize that things need to change. I hope that there's going to be a real reckoning, and that as travel companies try to revive themselves, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, they'll recognize that now is the time to radically recalibrate what they're doing and be more inclusive to Black people.
Kelly and Kim, Kelly, I'll start with you. I'd love to get you all's thoughts. Talk a little bit about the cultural shift that you're seeing from where you're standing.
Oh man, sometimes it's like I don't even know where to start. I'm noticing a lot of, big brands and tourism boards and companies, claim to step up to the plate. And obviously we're seeing that social movement with like the Black squares and the solidarity. However, I want people to know that we need to move past that, and we want to see the action. And so I'm in a space now where it's like, okay, so that was last week. The work is continuous. Everyone on this panel has been doing the work for years. We've always tried to tell our stories. We've always tried to communicate what our culture is about. And I am hoping that the brands, these tourism boards will continue to allow us and more of us to tell our own stories. For a white traveler to go to Africa and tell us about safaris and those experiences, you need to send a Black person or a person of the diaspora from that land to tell that story, because we have a more deeply rooted connection with that. And so I'm hoping that this is the way that they're going to go, because as Sarah said, it's been very much a white lens, and the world is diverse. Let us tell our stories through our own lenses.
Yeah, I completely agree with Kelly on that for sure. I think that it's important to, and it's been really encouraging to see a lot of unity, but it's the next step. You can, like Kelly said, put up a Black square or say that Black Lives Matter, but what are you going to be doing internally? I want to see that. And I've been encouraged, and I've really loved to see people commenting on some of these national brands as well as tourism boards, and saying, okay, well, we see that you're saying this, and we see that you are going to be actively working to push away any kind of racism, but what are you tactfully going to be doing within your organization to ensure that that is in place? I've worked in different positions throughout my career where I was the only Black person. And unfortunately, it's still an issue where you might think that a vacation guide has one Black story and you can check that box off. And it's just not, that is a slap in the face, to be honest and blunt. So I agree. I think that it's great that we're seeing this momentum, but let's really dive deeper to ensure that there is true change.
Travis, you and I have known each other for a little while, 5+ years. From your perspective, how has the Black traveler changed in that time? What are you seeing from family, friends? How are things differing with the Black traveler in your experience?
I think over time, you see more Black people getting rid of this notion that the world isn't their oyster and that it's only for rich people. And that's been a beautiful thing to see. I think the Black travel movement has really blossomed into a space where people are, they might not think that they have the means, but they're figuring out ways to do so. So they're savvier with flight and travel deals to explore far-flung countries, even with 9-to-5 jobs. So I think you see a lot of people breaking that limit. And I think, I mean, as much as people gripe about Instagram culture, I do think within the community, it's really helped normalizing Black travelers in luxurious destinations or doing very adventurous things. So you get less of, oh, Black people don't go there, Black people don't do that. No, you see it on social media. But the problem is you don't see that presence reflected on hotel accounts or travel brochures still. So there still needs to be a lot of change. But I think within the community, there's been a great increase in us exploring the world the way we should.
Milton, what about you? What kind of changes are you seeing things that kind of echo what Travis is seeing with regards to your circle?
I totally echo and agree with what Travis is saying. You know, first I want to give thanks to the travel influencers like the ones Kelly and Travis and Sarah, because it is those individuals in our community in the travel industry that have allowed even individuals like myself to see that we can travel and we can go places and that the world is our oyster. I think, you know, the travel, I think the world is just now in this moment understanding that the Black dollars matter. You know, there's over I think last report I read was in 2018, there was $63 billion is what African Americans contributed to the travel industry. And so I think we're realizing that, yeah, we're a little bit more savvier, but we also do have disposable income, and it's disposable income that no one has paid attention or valued. So I've seen my friends now go beyond the Caribbean and go to Africa and go to Europe and go to all these places that we didn't think we could before. So I think people are now, Black people are now saying, we can do this, but let us know where to go. Give us the opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, that's great that you mentioned that, you know, it's time for these places to pay attention and notice that, you know, these Black dollars are there. I think some of
DeMarco, could I just say something here?
Sure.
I'm going to, because you know I'm all about the Caribbean. I have to tell you, you know, what I really want people to understand is even though Black people here in America are now venturing past the Caribbean and going to farther flung places, which is great. Think about, you know, the Black people in the Caribbean, because I can tell you that you know, obviously I'm closely connected. My friends who come up from Jamaica, they're not just what I've seen is they're not just coming to Miami to shop all day. You know, they were in the stands in London at the Olympics when Bolt won. They were planning trips to Tokyo this summer. You know, they're going all over. Black people, you know, yay for the Caribbean, but we're going everywhere, and we're not just going on a budget, you know, and we're not waiting until we're retiring also to do it. I find, you know, a lot of younger people, everyone's, you know, maybe not putting off buying a house and instead they're traveling. You know, we're not homogenous, and obviously we're here talking in America, but think about there are Black people everywhere, and we're going everywhere, and we want to go now, and we want to spend money when we get there. So it just makes good business sense. Make us feel welcome.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we're getting to like the different realms of our community. You know, I'm an adventure traveler. People think that Black people can't swim and that we don't know how to fly airplanes and that we don't go to super far-flung places, where you're looking at a Black pilot, you're looking at a scuba diver, you're looking at a mountaineer, you're looking to a person like who's a survivalist. We are more adventurous these days, and people are taking the risks. They're really literally going off the beaten track because we are connecting back to our roots. Because as Black people, especially for those of us who have ancestors who came from Africa, we lived off the land before. When we think about slavery in our country, we escaped from the south to the north, going through swamps and traversing lands and using the North Star. We've been master navigators. We've been explorers. So when we go into the world, don't think that that stops. And let me tell you, it's not cheap to do adventure travel. So when you talk about disposable income, not only are we laying in cabanas and in villas, we're also paying $10,000 to go summit Mount Everest. You know, we use our money. And if anything, you know, I think I'm always shocked at the fact, you know, you just mentioned the $63 billion. If anything, value our dollar. We want to see ourselves reflected because we have that money. And so respect that if not anything else.
And can I just pipe in real quickly and say to Kelly's point, not only do we have money, but a lot of us from an age spectrum. So when I was traveling, I really had the opportunities. I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to have traveled with my friends when I was in high school and in college and even post-grad. My parents, who are both almost 70, have been world travelers for years. So I think it's I think it's something to respect the fact that the age, like, we need to be marketed to just like everybody else. A 75-year-old Black man loves to travel just like a 17-year-old Black man. So it doesn't seem to just have to be one niche that is within this box. It is, we as a culture, as a people, enjoy traveling too. And I think that is one thing that is such a disgrace when I don't see diversity within age, because we are limitless. We really are.
And that's a low old lady in the group. I second that. Yay for the perennials.
Sure. Great chiming in there, Kim and Kelly. Now, one thing I've noticed in my travels is this, you know, the exclusion that, you know, the destinations or the hotels have had towards Black travelers, but it wasn't necessarily overt or on purpose. It could be, there have been numerous times where I've had a spa treatment and, you know, I've gone back to the men's dressing room to, you know, shower or, you know, get myself ready for the rest of the day. And I look at the toiletry table and there isn't for a Black man. If you can look at my hair, Milton's hair, and Travis's hair right now, you'll see this at the counter, and that's not gonna work for us.
Wide tooth, a little bit more wide tooth.
Right. And it's nothing against the 5-star hotel or the 2-star hotel. You know, they may not have the people in place to point out those kinds of things, but it's little things like that I wish and hope and pray that, you know, we're turning the page, that people will become more conscious about those little things that can really make a big impression. Milton or Travis, either of you can chime in. Have either of you had a specific incident, or was there ever a time where something felt uncomfortable because of race, and how was it ultimately handled?
You know, I have an experience that happens to me as I travel promoting Memphis across the country and some of the globe. Whenever I pull up in my rental car to a hotel, I am ignored by the valet. And it has become a habit. Like, I'm like, what's happening here? You know, I literally have to get out of my car, walk to the stand and say, I'm staying here. I'm not your Uber driver. I'm not the Uber driver. I'm not dropping someone off. I'm not picking someone up. I'm staying at this exclusive hotel and I need you to park my car, please. And so, you know, I had an incident with, I traveled with one of my coworkers and one of my white coworkers. We were in, I can say the city, but we were in the city and in the United States. And she pulled up, she's like, Milton, why are they not parking the car? I was like, I'm sorry. You got the Black man driving, white passenger. I said, they think I'm your driver. And so I had to literally get out the car, and really they were so ignoring us that they really didn't even pay us any attention, but they were helping people that were in front of me and behind me. And I'm like, no, me too. So that's an experience that, you know, I realized that it's not intentional, but it is a not being conscious aware, and you're letting your bias on what a traveler looks like seep into the mind of the valet. And I think people have got to be conscious of that at every level in a business, that, you know, that your traveler, your guest at your hotel looks like a variety of different people. So, but yeah. That's my experience.
Yeah, it's sad because I feel like a lot of my racial incidents has happened on assignments. So it's been twice in a year, as early as February, where I'm in a group press trip. We're going through border control in Moscow and Osaka, mostly white group. Everyone goes through, but I'm stopped for extra questioning. In Moscow, I was held at least a half an hour after everyone went. Everyone already went to their cars to get to their hotel, and I'm still stuck here. One of 4 other Black people that got stopped in Moscow. That's not fun. Osaka, I went to customs, and even though my white counterparts was able to go through with the briefs, the agent decided to hold up a chart of drugs and point to each one, asking if I brought any of them in to Japan. Even after I said no to all of them, very frustrated, they still proceeded to check my bags and to rummage through them. I remember being in Cape Town on assignment. I'm here to write about a restaurant, and just had the nastiest energy from the front of house. She probably didn't know who I was, but it still didn't matter. It's just that, Cape Town is a different story altogether, but it's Black people don't belong here. What are you doing? Sort of look that I've had a few times in that city. And also on a press trip, and this is not as sinister as the other ones, but I remember going on an amazing luxury trip in Cape Town, and it was about art. And so we visited all these amazing artists' ateliers and studios, and I thought to myself, all of these artists that we're meeting are white in a country that's 80% Black. What's going on? So those are some of the the things I've had to endure as a Black person, even just working in the travel industry.
Kelly, you were gonna share?
I have stories for days, but just to give a quick antidote. Speaking of Travis saying you're working, I'm literally filming an episode for the Travel Channel. My entire crew is pretty much white, with the exception of my producer, who is Indian. And I am filming an airport scene where I'm about to take off in the plane. Mind you, the crew behind the scenes is like 20 people. I'm walking to the airplane, and the airport manager is out there, and he asked my director, why is she walking to the aircraft? Why is she walking to the left side, the left seat? The left seat is the captain's seat, for those who don't know. And my director, a white woman, looks at him and says, because she's the pilot, we're all here because this is her show.
Wow.
So it doesn't matter. I'm here on a multi-million-dollar production with a plethora of people who are following me with cameras, and it is mind-blowing to you that I, a young Black woman, I'm walking to a plane and you're questioning that. But let me tell you what my director did. She didn't tell me after we wrapped, because let me tell you, I would have stopped shooting, because we would have had to have a conversation. What I would love for the travel industry to do, and for people in the world, is to expect to see us, because we're already here. We're doing the things, we're spending the money, we're going the places. Don't be shocked. When we pull up our car, come train your staff to treat everyone equally. Ask if they're an Uber driver, say, hey, do you want a valet? You need to ask everyone and treat everyone equally and frequently the same way. So that is a frustration that I have. For me, with the valet situation, listen, when I pull my car up, I expect the service, because I'm about to spend money at your establishment. I'm about to, and we go to places that vary in prices, and we want the same treatment across the board. So if you're listening and watching this, and you're a hotel manager or you have accounts, you need to start training your staff to treat everyone equally. And when it comes to when we're working, we think about these things. I'll never fly back to that airport again. I'll never want to shoot there again. Travis will probably not want to go back to places or promote these companies or these businesses because we didn't have a good experience. And you also have to understand, a lot of us, maybe they're not influencers. There's people who are working hard and spending their money, and they're spending way more money than people like us have to, because most of the time we don't have to spend the money. We're invited. So you have to be mindful of your customer, and that money talks, and they won't come back, and they'll tell their friends, and they'd be happy to go somewhere else. That's one thing about our community. You let us know what's going on. Either we're going to rock with you, and rock with you means we're going to spend time in your establishment, or we're not going to mess with you at all. And we're going to make sure our friends know the same thing. So please do better. Sorry. not
No, thank you.
DeMarco, to further to Travis's point, but DeMarco, you know this. Usually when I'm on a press trip, I am the only Black person on the trip. And occasionally there is another journalist who Travis knows, and DeMarco knows, sorry, who is also a Black person, a Black man. And I have to tell you, every single time we're on a trip together, it's clearly so rare that there are Black people on press trips. So travel PRs, please listen to what I'm saying. Every single time we go on a trip, people presume that we are married to each other only because we are Black. And people make that assumption all the time. And they say, oh, is this your husband? And I say, no, we're just Black. You know, we're not married. We're just Black. We're just Black. We're professional people, but you know, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so the one time that this particular journalist, DeMarco, and I were on the same trip it's forever etched in my brain, because it's the only time that there have been 3 Black people on a trip and not just me. It's crazy. It's really, I make light of it, but it's not fun.
DeMarco, I'd love to chime in on Sarah's comment on that. Gosh, I think the last 11 years, I was the director of communications for both Experience Columbia SC as well as South Carolina Tourism, making sure that I was the person connecting with travel writers to bring them to the state of South Carolina and the city of Columbia. And I think that there could be a lot of work done within the travel community as well, the writers, because I cannot tell you how many times I would show up to do a meeting or a press junket or to do a visit with a writer, and this 2-second hesitation of Kim from South Carolina, and they were not expecting a 6'1" Black woman. And it's just this, yes, I'm within this industry. I care about travel. I care about my state, my home state where I'm from. Why would you expect me to not be someone to be the face of this organization? So I think that's one thing, or one area that could also be really strengthened and said, you know, within the travel writer world, we need to support each other. And also too, it's not always the stories that are, I can't, there were so many times when I wanted to pitch certain stories and they just wanted that low hanging fruit. And it's like, that's not the story, but if that's what you want, fine, but that is not the story. So.
Kim, let's stay with South Carolina for a minute, because we don't only want to.
Gosh, I'm nervous.
No. We don't only want to talk about the problems. We want to talk about the solutions. And I've had a couple of really wonderful experiences at the Forbes Travel Guide 4-star Montage Palmetto Bluff. Fantastic property. For those who aren't familiar, just imagine weeping willows, people on bikes, the little church at the end of the town square. It's a Norman Rockwell painting. But I was on a tour one time there where we were it was a cultural nature tour, just kind of talked on everything Palmetto Bluff. And they mentioned all the chapel and the flora and fauna and all that good stuff. But we also talked about the slavery history, the plantations. We went to a slave burial site where we literally were surrounded by grave sites and tombstones. And I appreciated, though it saddened me that, I was celebrating on this hallowed ground, I appreciated the destination for not only showing me the flowery, wonderful things, but they went to the underbelly and showed me the darker side of the destination as well. And I appreciate that. And I just hope that more hotels, more destinations don't just glaze over the past or gloss over, the negative things that have happened, and just give the Black traveler, any traveler, the full story of that destination. Just
to that, just real quick, I'll say thank you for that. I'm glad that was your experience, and I think I have to commend. I know one again, when I was in this role, Boone Hall Plantation was another one that I actually went on the tour before inviting any media, because I wanted to see what really was going to be said. And I have to commend them. They talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly and put it right out there. And I really appreciated that, because in Charleston, South Carolina, a lot of times it's white individuals who are traveling, wanting this idyllic, romanticized experience. And they can see some of that for sure. And it's beautiful down there. But there's also a ton of African American history. And I just love the fact that they just push it right in your face. And that's what you need to see and hear.
We have a host of questions. We don't have much time, so let me see if I can get to a couple. If anything go ahead, Mel.
One little thing on that note. I just want to say, when it comes to destinations and destinations, anybody in the travel industry, to hotels, attractions, when it comes to the Black dollar and the Black experience, don't just market to us. You're not doing us any good by just marketing to us and taking our money. And that is you need to have a moral understanding and a moral grounding of what your organization represents. And if you have a moral grounding, you'll know how to reach us. You'll be educated and culturally aware and can easily market to us. I just want to chime in on that. And so those good situations that happen because people have a moral grounding understanding of their responsibility. So I want to just remind people, don't just think of it as a way as, how do I reach you? How do I market? How do I PR the story to get you here, and how do I welcome you? It doesn't do you any good to welcome me if you don't support the causes that affect Black people around the world.
We are not just a campaign, to Milton's point. It's not just a campaign that you run for a month and then go back to what you were doing.
Thank you all both, because that was one of the questions. So we killed two birds right there.
High five, Milton.
Oh, okay. Here's a good one. In your opinion, do you think hotels, tour operators, and tourism boards have been complacent in all of this?
Yes. That's why we're having this conversation. Big time. I just don't think that as a whole, the industry is aware of how they play into the systemic issues of society when conference lineups are all white. Or when you look at the contributor pages of magazines, they're all white. Mastheads all white. So if you haven't really taken the time to see, something's very, very off here, then yes, I think all sectors of the travel industry is guilty of that. And I think that's why we're having a conversation now, to see how can we change things.
Okay. Now, on the flip side of that, another question, can you all recall any companies or individuals who are doing a good job of spreading the word and being less biased?
I've worked with, a lot of companies like everyone here, and I can say that there's some companies who have gotten ahead of this. It's like not trending. That's the part that's important. I respect the companies who were doing this before. In my experience, Airbnb in 2019, we went to, I believe, over 10 countries talking about diversity and inclusion, speaking to panels. Not only was it my experience as a Black female adventure traveler, we also had a trans woman who was also on the tour with us, a Black trans woman at that, going to Brazil and going to places where, they don't value their lives. And so I feel like there are brands who definitely have been ahead of the curve. And in my experience, Airbnb was one that on a major platform that I thought did amazing.
I want to give a shout out to the destinations and DMOs that actually put dollars towards having a diversity and inclusion department, a part of their organization. I have to say, Memphis, we don't have one yet, but we think our diversity and conscious and cultural awareness is a part of our DNA. But I think if you're a city that doesn't able to do as Memphis has, I think you have to really think about, do I need to spend dollars on having someone or a team dedicated to their cause? So I think I want to give a shout out to those people like Visit Philly and the Philly Convention Bureau, who I know I've worked with through PRSA, that I know are committed to diversity. So I've loved the program that I've had to witness that they put on.
I have to give kudos to Lonely Planet. Before this George Floyd incident happened. Years ago, they put on a diversity event and tapped writers and content creators of color to speak about what things need to change. And they used that event to change the industry because Lonely Planet was overwhelmingly white for the last 40 years of existence. But they used that time to be proactive and to diversify their voices. So kudos to Lonely Planet for that.
I think we have time for one more question. How can we find more funding for analytics and research on the spending and buying power of the Black community?
Oh, I'll just be very blunt. Do you ask that of your white patrons? Why is it that you feel you need analytics from the Black community? I've never heard of a questioning of analytics from a white patron. So I think that's an issue. That question is an issue in itself. You don't need analytics from us. If you want analytics from us, you can go and do the research and you can see it from gifts to so many big organizations who have already done the work to say that we spend $63 billion. That was from 2 years ago. That money has increased since then. I understand when people say they want analytics, but you have to also understand there's an underlying insult that you may not have intended, but it's the truth. If you're not asking that question of your normal, you don't need to ask it of us. We're doing the same. There's your answer.
Sarah, it seemed like you wanted to chime in a little.
No, I agree 100% with Kelly. I hope that first question wasn't coming from a bad place, but it's very sad that you think that you have to ask that question. I mean, you know, we exist, we're out there, we're traveling, we're all over the world. Travel is our birthright. And now you're like, well, we can't really accommodate you unless we know for sure that you're really coming. I mean, it's really quite saddening.
You know, I want to jump in there and say kudos to the Black Travel Alliance for holding the industry accountable and making destinations put out, destinations and travel organizations provide the data. You know, I did have an opportunity to speak with a variety of people that I know in the travel industry, and some of them were not excited, or they felt heightened or felt offended. Oh, this is a ransom. I got 72 hours to provide my data and this or that. And I'm like, no, if this was the New York Times, I'm pretty sure you would get this to them by 5 p.m. So don't get offended. Before you are offended by someone asking you a question and asking you to provide information, I mean, first of all, you're going to ask an oppressed group to provide you data before you provide the data. It's just, no, you have to be willing to come to the table and be open-minded about it and not get offended, because the moment that you're offended or feel that this is a question that should not be asked of you is the moment where you're going the wrong direction to solve the problem. So people have got to use their sensitivities towards being questioned about what they do in their day-to-day jobs or how they handle their job in the travel industry, and be open to answering and solving the problem and getting to the root of it without feeling like somebody is holding me ransom. You're being held ransom because you haven't been doing the work.
Only have 2 minutes left before we go. I'm sorry, Shivani.
I was going to pipe in and say you have time for one more quick question if you want to ask. Not that anything's a quick answer, but.
All right. For the attendee who wants to know more, wants to learn more, wants to see more, panel, can we throw out a few Instagram followers that they should be looking at besides the obvious names here in this panel? Tell them a few people that they should be checking out.
Can I just say, go ahead, Sarah.
No, Kim, go ahead, finish up.
I was just going to say that Travis, I commend you. You posted a fantastic post of maybe a week ago, and I think it had, 30 different Black content creators and journalists and writers. Yeah, I shared that on PRSA. I think we had a little chat over Instagram message, and I just want to say thank you for that. And I had a couple of direct messages from PRSA Travel attendees and people who follow us who were like, I had no idea about any of these individuals. Thank you for sharing that. So thank you for that. But I will say one more quick shout out to one of my dear friends, Anika Raymond. She is fantastic, and I have worked with her for a number of years and have become really close friends with her. So Anika Raymond.
I got one. Jeff Jenkins with Chubby Diaries. Great guy to follow. Also, Brian Oliver with Beyond Be More on Instagram. Two great individuals to follow.
I like
I have-
Nate, Adventure Traveler. And I also love Gloria Antamo. She's just brilliant, from travel to how to be a better person. And she has an amazing guide out right now for those who are interested in trying to be better allies for the African American community. So Gloria Antamo, known as Glow Graphics.
And
I would say
Martin
check
Nicholas,
out.
sorry. And
Go on,
Martin
Travis.
Nicholas of Marty San Diego. She's a true champion of diversity in the industry. Definitely follow her.
I want to give a shout out to some people that you might not have heard of. So Melissa Noel, she's a Caribbean correspondent and news person. She's at live_from_Melissa, bad handle, but good person. Heather Greenwood Davis is such a smart storyteller at Heather GD. And I want to shout out to Rizelle Celestina. She's a St. Martin and Caribbean expert, and she's at the Traveling Island Girl. There are lots of niche people, but all together, we represent the world.
That's right. Great stuff. I knew I picked the right people for this panel. And Shivani, I hope you agree. Everyone in
It could keep going on and on. That's the
Right.
thing.
I hope you all have enjoyed this fireside chat, workshop, panel, whatever you want to call it. Thank you all at the New Travel Conference for making the space for this. And
Thank you for joining. It means a lot, really.
we hope to have more conversations like this in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you guys for your time and participation. Thank you. It was great. Good stuff.
Thanks for having us.